All right, I'm going to go Thursday Night Football props. Kyler Murray over his pass completions. So you've got no James Conner at running back. It's going to be Trey Benson. Conner out for the season with that right foot injury. The Seattle run D is much better than the pass D. And Murray has actually gone over 21.5 pass completions in 6 straight games against Seattle, averaging 24.5 pass completions per game. Seattle has allowed the 5th most completions per game at just under 25. 2 of the 3 quarterbacks to face the Seahawks have gone over their pass completions number. So you could look to the over completions for Kyler Murray tonight. Sam Darnold. I like pretty much all his overs tonight, which seems public. I got him 220 plus on the passing yards for minus 130 at DraftKings. You could look to his over pass completions. You could look to over pass attempts. And I'll walk you through all of them. And you could tell me what you think. According to Props.Cash likes his over passing yards the most. But we'll start with completion. So over 19.5 pass completions was minus 130, 20.5 plus 105. The only game that Darnold went over that was against Pittsburgh, but that was the other road game. The only other road game, he had 22. The Seahawks, when they've aligned in like a condensed formation on a league high, 58%, by the way, of snaps this season, the Seahawks have recorded the 2nd highest passing success rate when in a condensed formation this year. Arizona, bottom 10 in blitz rate. They're not applying a lot of pressure. It's going to be a lot of time in the pocket for Darnold. Arizona's allowed the most completions per game, just under 30. All 3 quarterbacks to face Arizona's D has gone over their pass completion prop. Mac Jones went over. Bryce Young went over. Spencer Rattler went over. First round pick, Will Johnson, also doubtful, the cornerback, groin injury. Darnold's over pass completions you could look at. If you just like the intent to throw instead of relying on receivers to catch, then you could look at the over 29.5 pass attempts for Darnold, who went over this in 4 of 5 primetime games with Minnesota last year. I know it's a different team, but as long as the intent is there in primetime to throw, you can consider. Arizona's run D, top 4. Pass D, 3rd worst. Darnold has a ton of receivers to throw to. Cooper Kupp, JSN, Torrey Horton. Picked up targets in the last couple of weeks. Arizona's allowed the most pass attempts per game, just over 47 pass attempts per game. Again, all 3 quarterbacks faced. Mac Jones, Bryce Young, Spencer Rattler, all went over their pass attempt prop. Darnold over passing yards. You can get it 220 plus. You could get the actual one. It went from 223.5 this morning to 226.5, or you could lay some juice. Again, the only one that Darnold went over was on the road at Pittsburgh. In week 3, Darnold completed 6 of 8 downfield passes for 146 yards and a touchdown. This season, Darnold has completed just over 64% of his downfield passes, 2nd highest rate amongst qualified quarterbacks. Last year, Darnold threw for just over 2,400 downfield passes, passing yards, 204 more than anyone else. And guess who sucks against the deep ball? The Cardinals, who have allowed 323 passing yards on downfield passes, 12th most this season. Last year, primetime games, Darnold went over in his passing yards 4 of 5 times. Arizona, 2nd most passing yards per game allowed to quarterbacks at 275 per game. And again, all 3 quarterbacks to face Arizona have gone over this number. My differentiator was that Props.Cash said that their numbers like the over passing yards the most. But I really don't mind with anybody going on the over and any of the others. We mentioned this in the chat before about Trey Benson, the running back for Arizona, over his 19.5 receiving yards. Seattle has allowed the most receiving yards per game to running backs. 3 of the 4 went over the receiving yard prop against Seattle. Kamara is the only one that went under. He had 26.5 prop, went 14. Kenneth Gainwell, over 13.5 receiving yards against Seattle, had 16. Jalen Warren, over 14.5 receiving yards. He had 86. Christian McCaffrey went over his 29.5 receiving yard prop against Seattle, and he had 73 McCaffrey receiving yards. Trey Benson, if they're going to shut him down in the run game, which is what Tom Vecchio thinks is going to happen tonight, then I would look to him in the passing game. The same way I'm looking to Kenneth Walker in the passing game, over 10.5 receiving yards. He went over in both primetime games last year for Seattle with 36 and 37. Arizona's allowed the 5th most receiving yards per game to running backs at just over 50 receiving yards a game to the position. 2 of 3 number 1 backs have gone over their receiving yard prop against Arizona, McCaffrey and Chuba Hubbard. McCaffrey had 88. Chuba Hubbard had 39. Kamara, the only one that went under, he had 12. But all the other number ones have put up at least 39 receiving yards against Arizona this year. I love me some Kenneth Walker tonight. Trying to see. Okay, a little bit more of propaganda, I guess, but it's not really propaganda. It's more fade the public. College football. Bettors are hammering Georgia. Look at these bet slips. 84% money line, 81% on the spread. Spoke to my good friend, Chris Thurston. I'm going to get him on the show at some point. He loves himself some Bama plus 3.5 and more at plus 3. Said Georgia's defense, not the same as what everyone's used to. Ty Simpson's looked great the last 2 weeks for Bama. Bama slings the ball with Simpson to those wideouts. They probably could win this game outright, my friend Chris said. I don't hate college football. I just don't handicap it. So I'm talking about it. My friend's handicap of it, Chris Thurston, who's really good at betting college football. We talk about college football every weekend, actually. I just tail whatever him and Kelly do. So that's why I was asking, do we fade the public? And Chris absolutely believes that this is a fade the public moment for UGA and Bama. A huge game. So plus 3, plus 3.5. Don't mind if I do. Some Alabama Crimson Tide. Huge weekend for my family. I've got Georgia and Bama people in my family. So, whoo, it's a roughie. And just for anyone else tuning in, these are the splits for tonight's game. Seattle open plus 1.5, now minus 1.5. Most of the bets and money are coming in on Seattle. Not really anybody on Arizona because Kyler Murray can't seem to beat Seattle. Is this the time? Guess we'll see. Pitcher props for tonight in case anyone still wants to talk some Major League Baseball. So you could go, this is probably my favorite one of the night, Walker Buehler to go over his earned runs allowed. Buehler has been bad. He is allowing just under 3 earned runs per start this year, going over his earned runs allowed prop in 72% of games. In the last 20 games, 67% of righties have gone over their earned runs prop against Miami. In fact, the Marlins are averaging 2.5 runs per game against starters this year. For the Mets righty, Nolan McLean, under 4.5 strikeouts is in plus money. The only fear I have is that the Mets don't, like, the Mets bullpen's a little tired. So maybe they try to keep McLean in the game, but it is going to be very tough for him to hit 5 against a Cubs team that really doesn't strike out much. McLean hasn't even faced a low strikeout rate team yet this year. This is the lowest K rate team that McLean's faced all season. Righties, 50 overs and 68 unders when facing the Cubs, averaging just over 4 strikeouts a game. 3 of the last 5 right-handers to start against the Cubs have gone under their K prop. So just from a value perspective, I do feel like there is some value on Nolan McLean under 4.5 Ks. Let's see some stats. Mark says Seattle 7 straight head-to-head versus the Cards 6-1 ATS. I'm not even showing some of Sean's stuff. What did Sean say? Lamar 23-2 record against the NFC. How did that pan out? Okay, well, the other 23 looked pretty damn good, Sean. So whatever. This weekend, I did say that I do like the Ravens at minus 2.5. I was waiting for that number to drop to 2.5. I think the Ravens defense will get things right against the Chiefs, who are fairly one-dimensional, with Isaiah Pacheco being the running back. That's not as tough as covering like the Lions backfield. I also feel like the Ravens offensively will click against this Chiefs defense that's not as good as it's been in years past. I would lay the 2.5 with the Ravens. This is their Super Bowl. It's going to be the biggest win they get all year because they're not even going to win a playoff game unless they're in a wild card. If they're in the wild card, maybe they win a wild card, but they don't win a divisional round game. Some other lines that stood out to me. So Minnesota, the line went from minus 1.5 to minus 2.5 against Pittsburgh in Dublin. Remember, that's a 9:30 a.m. Eastern time in Dublin. Minnesota, it's Carson Wentz. And like the fact the line's moving in favor of Carson Wentz should just automatically stand out to you that the Sharps are clearly on the Vikings. I don't think people trust Aaron Rodgers to go to Dublin at 42 years old and have success. And he also faced this same defense last year and got absolutely embarrassed. So I would be weary of Aaron Rodgers. I'm weary of how good I'm weary of the Steelers because their offense has pretty much been predicated on the pass, and that's where the Vikings have success. The Steelers would have to get the run game going against Minnesota, and that's just not their MO. So just be wary of that line in Dublin. The steam is totally on the Vikings. Some other lines that stood out to me. I know I also saw that the public is heavily fading the Giants. Heavily. We're talking 85% of action coming in on Los Angeles. They're on the road at the Giants. Steam on the Chargers, -5.5 to -6.5. I'm hearing from some of my sharp friends out in Vegas that they like the Giants. It is ugly. Don't get me wrong. You've got 3 Chargers offensive linemen banged up. The Chargers open against Kansas City, had to play Monday Night Football after Brazil on the road in Vegas, and then Chargers finally got a true home game and they had to face Denver. It has been a really, really tough stretch for the Chargers and now have to go to the East Coast to face the Giants. I'm just saying. 6.5 is a lot of points for the Giants. I don't trust them. It's just a lot of points. And I know it's a rookie quarterback, Jackson Dart, getting his first start in the NFL. You can't really trust them straight up, for sure. Bad stats against rookie quarterbacks in their debut. 17, 35, and 1 straight up in rookie quarterback debuts. Getting 6.5 at home when everyone else around you is like, okay, we have to step up for our quarterback who's making his debut. Maybe there's something. The same way when I always talk about this in baseball, you've got your ace on the mound. The team doesn't score as much. You're confident you've got your ace on the mound. Similar situation. Russell Wilson, veteran quarterback. Oh, now you've got a rookie. We got to step up. We don't want him to look bad. We don't, that mindset. Anyway, Giants plus 6.5. Interesting spot. Another interesting spot, Las Vegas. I ain't buying. I've got 2. Actually, 3 more. Las Vegas, I ain't buying the Bears. Absolutely not. Just because they had one great game against a horrible Dallas defense. I don't care. I don't trust the Bears at all. They're on the road. Vegas 1.5 point home favorites. Don't buy into a 1-game sample size. We're also talking about a Bears team that in the month of September is 4-14. Javonte Williams averaged 7.5 yards per carry against Chicago last week. Dak Prescott, 31 of 40 against the Bears D last week. So just because the Bears offense made the Dallas defense look silly, don't sleep on the Dallas offense stats against the Bears defense. So Vegas, when you look at Raiders last week, just under 6 yards per play. Geno Smith threw for 300 yards, finally no interceptions, 3 TDs. They could take advantage of this Bears defense. Another good scheduling spot, you could look potentially at the Colts. I mentioned this earlier, plus 3.5. The Rams, they're home after back-to-back road games on the early Eastern time slate. So if you the Rams could win. I don't know. I think that the best place to catch points would be with the Colts at plus 3.5 just because of the situation spot. I really like the Jaguars too. Again, we'll have to see what happens with Brock Purdy. I don't know if it's smart or not for the 49ers to play Brock Purdy this week because they have a short week against their division rivals, the Rams, on Thursday. So if you could give Purdy an extra few days of rest and not put him on a short week coming off injury, depending on how they feel his injury's looking. But let's just say, either way, right? Catching points with Jacksonville. You've got the short week for San Francisco coming up. 49ers rushed for 77 and 73 yards the last 2 games. Pretty one-dimensional if you got a backup quarterback. A lot of the times, teams will surround their backup quarterback for that first game. Oh my gosh, Jackson Dart, we have to be great. They cover, they win, whatever happens, right? San Francisco 3-0. The luck has to run out on the injuries at some point. So now you got to win a second game, potentially with Mac Jones under center. I don't think with Mac Jones, they should be 3.5 point favorites. So I would take the 3.5 with Jacksonville. I think those were all the sides that stood out to me early on this week for the NFL. Why do you think I got a boyfriend? I didn't get a boyfriend. Absolutely not. 49ers have allowed 49 points in 3 games. So, no, I didn't get a boyfriend. I'm just dressed nice today because my mom told me that I need to dress nicer on the show. Thanks, Iris. Anyway, you guys know it's the end of the show, so it is time for my best bets of the day. We are going with Royal Locks. Royal Locks of the day. I am going to be so mad if the public jinxes this one. Sam Darnold, 220 or more passing yards for tonight's Thursday night football game. Darnold also went over his passing yards prop. The only road game he had against Pittsburgh. Week 3, Darnold completed 6 of 8 downfield passes, 146 yards, a touchdown. Darnold has completed just over 64% of his downfield passes. That's the second highest rate amongst qualified quarterbacks. He loves to throw the deep ball, and the Cards are terrible defending against it. The Cards are 12th in allowing the most deep balls this season. Also last year, if you care, Darnold did go over in 4 or 5 primetime games. I know it was a different team. Hey, he likes to throw in prime time. Arizona has allowed the second most passing yards per game to quarterbacks. All 3 quarterbacks that he's faced have gone over this. Mac Jones, Bryce Young, Spencer Rattler. You can argue that Sam Darnold's better than 2 of 3, if not all of those quarterbacks. So I would say that he can go over his passing yards prop as well. Kenneth Walker, the running back, going over his 10.5 receiving yards. Walker's gone over this in both primetime games dating back to last year, 36 and 37 receiving yards. Arizona's allowed the 5th most receiving yards per game to running backs this year, just over 50 receiving yards a game. 2 of the 3 number 1 backs to face Arizona have gone over their receiving yards prop. McCaffrey, Chuba Hubbard, they all went over with 88 and 39. Alvin Kamara, the only one that ended up going under. And lastly, for a baseball prop, if you want my favorite of the day, it's Walker Buehler allowing 2 earned runs or more. Buehler's allowed at least just under 3 earned runs per start this year, going over 1.5 in 72% of starts. In the last 20 games, 67% of righties have gone over their earned runs prop against Miami. The Marlins are averaging 2.5 runs per game against starters this year. I feel like people are sleeping on it because they don't think the Marlins are good. But they're averaging a bunch of runs against starters. So you could look to Walker Buehler over 1.5 earned runs allowed.